Welcome to the Deep Six podcast, where we make a generational impact on you and yours. What we do here is explore a 6-point model into your health, your life, and your journey while you're here. So let's dive deep and help you thrive, not just survive. Good afternoon. How you doing? This is Dr. Lewerenz with the Deep Six podcast. And I'm so excited to launch this and share all this information with you. So welcome. I have a wonderful guest today that I've known for a while. That's just going to be so exciting. But what do we do here is we bring you knowledge, life experiences, health and life, medical journey, just everything about life that you can possibly imagine to really, really impact your life, your quality of life, and how you can thrive and not just survive, but also take it home and to others and loved ones to make really, truly a generational impact. That's what we're about here in the Deep Six. And, you know, my guest here lives it with me in my practice at Longevity Health Institute. And I couldn't be happier to announce her and bring her on board. And, I want to thank her. So my guest today is Lauren Zessin. And Lauren Zessin is a board certified primary care and geriatric nurse practitioner. So welcome. And I'm gonna read all your stuff. So you because I'm proud of you. I'm personally proud of you. So, but welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah. It's so cool. So fun. Thank you. So let me just, I know this is the part where you could probably blush or get all quiet, but let me tell you who Lauren Zessin is and the wonderful things that she brings to our practice at Longevity Health Institute, but also to myself. And just, we always are bouncing stuff off each other about health and life, and even something down recently to a continuous glucose monitor, right? But she really brings a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. So Lauren, like I said, is a board certified adult geriatric primary nurse practitioner, and she has a master's in nursing from Vanderbilt University. Didn't know that. Wonderful that you went to Vanderbilt.
Yep. Nashville.
We'll have to talk about that because I love Nashville. She specialized in primary care patients age 13 and up, really helping them with their lifespan. And she joined our office, our practice, our Longevity Health Institute in southeastern Michigan here, a few years ago, and really helps us specialize in care of like adults, older adults, with a functional approach. And you were doing this before at a functional cardiologist practice, for a few years, right? Yeah.
Before I even worked in the hospital, I was doing that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you've got a wealth of experience and a lot of time in the hospital, right? A lot of time in intensive, situations and acute care situations and also chronic, care situations. So that's awesome. And I know you enjoy it. You're a certified yoga teacher.
Yeah.
And do a lot of therapeutic yoga classes and work on mindfulness and stress reduction.
Yeah, for about 10 years.
10 years of that, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's my one thing I'm not wonderful at. But yeah. And but you're also, you're very passionate. I want to quote you here. You're very passionate about uncovering the root cause of disease and giving patients the tools they need for their body to heal. And I know that's factual because the patients tell us and how they love you and just how some of the nuggets and things that you've tweaked and fixed are just wonderful to them. Now you do have a life outside the office and you like the outdoors, family and friends. You love your garden.
Yep.
And home renovation, which I didn't know anything about your home renovation.
Yes. Yeah. Our whole house, we've renovated our entire house.
Really?
Every single room.
And you do that. You're into that.
I do all the building. I'm just kidding. I don't do the building. I say I'm the brain behind it and my husband's the muscle.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of make all the plans and we've redone 2 houses. So
cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Just on your downtime.
In all our downtime.
And raising a baby. A beautiful baby.
Exactly.
And she's
almost 2.
She's
almost 2.
Man, I'm getting old because I it seems like that was months ago. So, well, welcome again. Thank you for joining us because, gosh, the wealth of knowledge and experience and stuff you can bring, literally different even than me in, being a physician and being in
Yeah.
practice, the nurse experience is different.
It's different. And it was intentional that I went into nursing. I wanted to have that quality time with patients. You know this. I love spending a lot of time with people.
Yeah.
So nursing is super hands-on. I wanted to be with them, taking care of them hands-on. And it's a little bit of a different model, same medicine, but different model of care. So I think it brings a really nice balance
For sure.
and complements what we do at our office.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I
Yeah.
think all that you can't have, in my opinion, a experience out in medicine that doesn't complement what we do.
I agree.
Yeah, because in our model, and I'd like to share this with you and what the Deep Six is. So the Deep Six is a 6-point model that we work with patients on, and we deep dive into whether you're 20 or you're 80 or 90,
Yeah.
whether you have goals or problems or chronic disease. But it's a way of unraveling and solving goals, but also building a health foundation. So everybody in our practice, and what the Deep Six truly is working on genetics, your hormones, your gut health and your nutrients and diet, how you detoxify and toxins, and the stress mind-body balance, and then if there's a structural issue. So the 6 points really encompass a really, really good foundation. And just organically, this evolved in my practice. And, I brought, practitioners like yourself on. And tell me just a little bit about your experience especially when you first came in with us, in that model and kind of what it.
So one of the things throughout my life, I'm really familiar with functional medicine my entire life. I had been a patient. I had done a lot of functional medicine rotations and training. And what really drew me to the Longevity Health Office was that it's a little bit of a different model. It really incorporates primary care with integrative medicine. And when I started at the office, one of the things that struck me so much that you taught me was it's not just about diagnosing the Lyme disease or this rare infection or this, random thing that's wrong with someone. It's getting the patients and getting yourself to be healthy so that you don't have any of those symptoms. And that was such a change in perspective from just going down these rabbit holes of this, one thing is causing all of someone's symptoms to maybe you have that, but why is that making you sick and not someone else sick? And how
Correct,
can we get
yeah.
you healthy fundamentally using those 6 points? And it really works.
Oh,
So that was just a paradigm change for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's exactly, how it organically started in the practice is some of these pieces were together.
Yeah.
And I kind of was incorporating them in our primary care practice and, with my hospital and ER experience and stuff. But until you really think of it, and you actually structure it,
Yes.
and you go, okay, this isn't so hard. Cause, of course we see a lot of, unfortunately, sick people and chronic disease, and it just makes a big, big difference. And some people, by the way, are doing pretty well. They just want to stay well and age well
and prevent disease.
Yeah. So let me start with this though. Okay. I love to do this, and I want to, give you a quote and just tell me kind of what it means to you. And, and there isn't a right or wrong,
Yeah.
So, there are 2 ways to view your life. One is through nothing is a miracle, and the other is through everything is a miracle. And that's Albert Einstein. And I always loved that quote. I thought it was so cool.
I love this.
What does it mean to you?
So this to me is actually such a meaningful quote because when I was in college and studying to be a yoga teacher and studying like Vedic philosophy, which is one of the oldest philosophies, it teaches you how to think, and your thought creates your entire experience. So that quote is a lesson in how you can think. And I learned this from taking care of patients in the hospital, actually. There were people who were so sick, but they were happy. They were felt whole and joyful, even though they were suffering. This was so impactful to me. So I became very particular about the thoughts that I chose to think.
Yeah.
And when you start to view it through that lens of everything is a miracle, or, whatever it could be through that type of a lens, making things meaningful, everything changes. Your experience changes internally. You don't suffer in the same way, even if something's challenging physically.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, it's a similar quote, I think, and it's exactly how you're seeing this. And I kind of see it the same way is is that you can look at, the negative of things, kind of like the glass half full,
Yes.
or half empty. And I find too in health, and I think it's so important, whether it's cancer, whether it's a chronic disease, a cardiovascular patient, whether it's somebody that's just struggling with, and they could be young, they could be in their 20s with autoimmune disease, but the mindset, which is one of our 6-point models, right? It's of the, the mind-body connection. It's so important. I mean, and you can't really just tell somebody to, have a better mindset, but you can coach them, and I think, and give them tools and have them start to have a perspective of things. And believe it or not, I kind of look at this quote as that too, the kind of flip side of how even tough things can be truly miracles in your life on the other side.
Absolutely.
So
that positive thinking is a muscle in your mind that you have to strengthen. It's not natural, especially if you grow up in a setting where it's not modeled. You have to work that muscle, and sometimes it's one we've never used. We've never known how to think of a hard thing positively. And train yourself. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that stuff. Love it. And it's, like I said, it's not the concrete thing we can always work on. We can grab a lab, we can grab a, advanced test. And when you get that, it's like, okay, here's our metric, here's our MRI, here's our CT, here's our, nutrient panel. But it's hard to quantify somebody's headspace. Totally. And I tell my kids this all the time. I said, be careful what's in your head. They look at me like I'm crazy. I like that. But I say, be careful what's in your head, because it's the most conversation you'll ever have is between your own two ears. So true. And they look at me like I'm nuts, but they get it later. As they grow older, they get it. I'm going to use that with Isabel.
Oh yeah, you should. Work on it now. It'll stick, by 5.
I like that.
So, well, wonderful. Well, listen, I want to pick, if you don't mind, I'm going to pick, and our 6-point model.
Yes.
So I'm going to pick one of the 6 points because they're all relevant. They're all very, very, very important into helping somebody's mind and body. And tell me one that you've seen or you've experienced that really, or maybe you read over and over in the practice or in your even past that you think of now, like, wow, that would have really been a really key part to their health.
Yeah. I would have to just say hormones as, a really good starting place to talk about, because they are so impactful throughout everyone's lifespan. Like just giving the example of for women's hormones change not just month to month, but weekly and significantly. And then at certain times in life, they dramatically change. And
I know this. You know why? I have like 4 women in my life, You do? Yeah, 2 moms. How do you have 2 moms? I'll tell you that later. But I have a lot of women in my life, and so I've been through this. And I
was going to say, this is important for the men to hear too that are listening, because it helps you understand what's going on. And I was thinking about this actually today. If I would never do this because it would be weird, but if I grabbed someone off the street and said, "What day are you of your menstrual cycle?" and they told me, and then said which hormones are elevated or low at this time, most people have no clue.
For sure.
Where estrogen or progesterone are at any given time. But it's so impactful on women's motivation, their exercise tolerance, their sleep, their mood. So it's really empowering to have that knowledge, and I get excited talking about it and making it more of a conversation and not something that's like it has to be learned in a biology book.
Correct. Yeah. So true. And not a disease necessarily.
Yes,
just an imbalance, like a functional problem. And, of course, we work on a lot of functionality in people's health, but it doesn't have to be a disease, you know what I mean? And actually keeping you well and thriving. And, it's so critical because it's a signaling molecule, if you think about it, to every, and one thing that's also underappreciated with hormones, so I'm kind of glad you brought this up, is that every cell in your body has a hormone receptor, every single cell for every hormone. And it's this intricate, symphony. And it's so important that when sometimes just a little tweak or a little correction, or by the way, naturally doesn't mean you have to take the hormone necessarily. We just have to give it a push or do something with your diet or your sleep or your lifestyle or what have you. And all of a sudden things work better. It's really amazing. I personally would agree it's one of the pivotal parts in the model because it can really be a home run right away.
Totally.
And one of the things, right, we teach or teach our patients, if you will, is that, we want to make you better yesterday.
Right.
Right. Give them something that's going to give them
stop suffering or feel better if you're,
Yeah. And sometimes hormones can be that.
Yeah. I've seen even, depression in women with postmenopausal resolve with proper hormone replacement therapy. That's so significant.
Yeah.
So it's really, and sometimes it's much more subtle than that, but it can be major.
Oh yeah. It's so major. And I always like to state this because, and maybe you could touch upon this, is with men and testosterone. But men and testosterone, they always think, whether it's the man or the wife or the girlfriend or their buddy told them, it's always sex.
Yep.
It's always, muscle.
Yep.
And it's, what I mean by sex is erections
Exactly.
or libido.
Exactly.
And if those are fine, they don't have a testosterone problem, whether even if they're 70 or 80. And that's not really factual. In fact, I have just recently a patient that came to me, just is on my mind, here, and came to me, just got finished, but, kind of still weaving through a divorce.
Yeah.
And 3 little kids, and just a lot of stress, a lot of struggle and all that.
Sure.
And he had mentioned how he had developed, anxiety, and kind of felt like he was everywhere in life. He was feeling beat up, and whether it was work or like a burnout effect, and just not confident, overthinking things. His sleep was off, and this just becomes a vicious cycle. But one of the biggest things, and maybe you can comment on this, is in men where it really helps the frontal lobe of the brain and the prefrontal cortex, and literally his testosterone was in the hundreds. And for people out there, by the way,
unbelievable.
A total testosterone anywhere in your hundreds, I don't care if you're 90 years old, that's critically low. And long story short is we corrected it, you name it. Wasn't a fix to everything. He had a lot of stress. He had some dietary things. We had to work on his whole system. But his anxiety was literally 80, 90% better. And he suddenly now felt a little bit more confident at work. And, so I noticed that, I don't know your experience with that, but
very much so. And we, like you said, we don't commonly associate low testosterone with anxiety or lack of confidence. And those are, really some of the symptoms that can really impact someone's life. For women, it's the same thing. Women sometimes can have those symptoms. And we don't even talk about, for women, testosterone super important. Well, we talk about it, but culturally,
we talk about hormones and
endlessly.
Yeah, all the time.
But testosterone is super important for women, and they can have that same experience where they're having some anxiety, not feeling confident, low motivation or energy. That can take a huge shift when we replace testosterone.
In fact, I have women in my practice, regardless of age, by the way, 20s and 30s to 60s, 70s, that I have testosterone. Like a woman will say that. And I'm like, yes,
all the time. I know.
Yes,
or they're like,
you don't need a lot. I say you need
good.
A drop or two, just a little drop. Then need a glass full. You need a drop.
Yes.
But if you have nothing, it really is impactful.
Yeah. They'll say, oh, it's low. That's good. I go, actually, you're going to feel a lot better typically if we can get it to a normal
builds
range.
Muscle, builds bone, helps anxiety and confidence. I've even seen it correct even stuff with hot flashes and stuff. So you think estrogen,
right?
But actually it does even have that benefit. Well, wonderful. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit because I want to hear more about you.
Yeah.
So tell me kind of, if you surmise, like if you can think back, what, like in your medical journey, what made you go into medicine? It doesn't have to be heroic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what made you get into medicine and start this kind of medical journey?
This is easy for me just because I was like a really sick kid. I initially just started.
You're beautiful and you're young and you look like you're 12. How were you a sick kid? I don't believe this, but
I know people, and I share this for that reason because you can come back from these things. And when I was
love it.
Like 7 years old, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which for listeners is autoimmune thyroid condition. You can take thyroid hormone replacement. It works well, but I was left with all of these symptoms. Like I had really bad brain fog and stomach pain, restless leg syndrome. I was really tired. So that was kind of my existence until I was probably 19 years old.
Jeez.
And I just muscled through things. I
Yeah.
pushed through. I just felt really sick always. And when
It became like your normal.
it became my normal. And when I was 19, I saw a functional medicine doctor who said, you should try a gluten-free diet. And I got home and I said, no way. So I can't do it.
I'm not getting rid of pizza.
No way, no chance.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it. And 6 months later, I felt so sick that I decided to try it. Within 60 days, all of my stomach pain and the restless leg syndrome and the brain fog resolved. Those 3 specific things.
Isn't that amazing? And we see this all the time.
It was amazing.
Yeah, we see this. That's amazing. I love it.
It wasn't the whole story.
Of
As
course.
we know, it's a journey, but that was such a dramatic improvement in my quality of life. And at the time, I was studying biology. So it was a really easy pivot for me to go into medicine. And I knew eventually I wanted to do functional medicine, but it's a journey to get there. So that was just, I had like really strong motivation from the beginning.
Yeah, that's it's one of the stories where it's somewhat a negative,
Exactly.
Something heavy, negative. Yes, it was your normal, but something that was kind of beating you down.
Yeah,
Truly became a positive.
exactly.
And that's that mind body thing
Yeah.
that we talk about. Yeah, it's you looked at the other end and you said,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to go back to this. Essentially, right?
Exactly.
That's what I mean. Going back to a functional approach. It sounds. I feel odd saying this, but how wonderful. I mean that.
Totally. I'm a big believer in that. And I don't look back and say, oh, I wish I didn't have this autoimmune disease or that. I don't think that way at all. And I just believe it's meaningful and it has given me a lot of wisdom. And I also know what it feels like to suffer and not feel well.
Yeah.
So that gives me a lot of empathy and understanding.
For sure.
So
Absolutely, for sure.
It's all, there's a lot of good things in it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I know in my journey, when I got into, call it a change, in philosophy or practice, really, I just had blinders on it. It wasn't really knowledgeable, a functional approach or a preventative wellness approach.
Yeah.
It's because it's not really touched upon too much in medicine. People don't realize that in medical school, it's, and you're studying to pass this test and learn the really hard stuff.
Acute care, that important management that you have to learn.
So like the diet and the food and the sleep and the lifestyle and all that stuff is kind of like, it's over, Yeah. And I personally, just like you, had something I was a family practitioner and out working, 3 kids, hustling, business, my own practice, et cetera, and all that. And, essentially an adrenal effect. Really never even talked about adrenals. Yet it's a hormone.
Totally.
It's a gland.
My favorite hormone.
Yeah. Your favorite. Yeah. It means a lot to you.
Yes.
But I mean, I personally had an experience just like that where for a couple of years, it became my norm to be tired for me.
Yes.
Run down, beat down, little blah, apathy, depressed, and a lot of people from the outside probably wouldn't see it this way because for them, I got by. My ex-wife, was very involved in it and she knows, and we still talk about it. We're friends and we literally like, oh yeah. And it's what put me on the trajectory of a functional approach, because if I could learn something new and make it such an impact in my life, and I was in my 30s, that I was like, whoa, I have to, hey, this is a paradigm shift. I'm going right.
Right. How can I not share this?
I'm shifting here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was very similar to your experience, very similar. So, let me ask you another thing. So how does like your hobbies between the yoga and actually, no, this is even really good because I didn't know about the construction work you do. I didn't know that you're, your own, contractor.
I like to call myself the project manager.
Yeah, that's right. Of the body and the house, right? Right. So, but, tell me how that impacts you with like fulfillment and creates balance in your life, and just how that's important to you, and how does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm a person that is just like moving all the time. I'm like endlessly feel like I have to be doing, and that creates a lot of like endless adrenaline, which is not healthy to be in. So I try to do.
I'm in trouble.
Do you do that too?
I live with adrenaline.
Exactly. We're kind of adrenaline
Other than I do
junkies.
sleep though. Yeah, this is true. I like my dopamine.
Go. And then exactly. And it's not all bad, but I definitely need that time to slow down. So I try to make my house feel like a spa. And I try to make my backyard feel sort of like a garden and a getaway. And I've been doing an herb garden over the last few years.
Oh, cool.
Which has been great.
Yeah.
And then I'll use the herbs medicinally to help, like thyme tea to help with sleep, or chamomile, lavender, things like that. So it's been really fun. And it's a way I go outside barefoot. So I'm grounding and just slowing down and not rushing, taking that urgency out, not doing, sort of being, trying to practice that. So
yes. Yeah, my wife
fun.
is really, I think you know her.
Yes, I think I met her.
I think you met her. So she's really been a blessing to me to get me to capture that, that
yes,
slowing down
she's so
and grounding,
good at creating that.
And, she was like, do you realize what you do? And I'm like, totally oblivious.
No, yeah, you're like, what is it?
Running an office and a business and kids and, sports and, high fuel and everything.
Oh yeah.
And no really trouble, but she was like, do you ever just slow down and like, and she was a blessing that way. And a good friend of mine actually, who's a mentor and a teacher in business and business models, Gino Wickman actually taught me that too, about how, literally slowing down too, making sure you
have to. I think our brains and our nervous systems really just need that time, and our world has so much stimuli in it that, if we're sitting, we almost feel like, oh, I need to check my email. I need to be productive. And that if that's your kind of baseline constitution anyways, it's important to do something to counteract that, for some stillness and bringing a little bit of time without the adrenaline.
Right. Yeah. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I literally became cognizant of just when I'm outside, when I'm mountain biking or hiking, or, just walking the dogs out in the woods with my wife, and that was energizing. It was just it was like a mental calm plateau, not engaged on my phone, not worrying about life and, patience and business and, family and loved ones and stuff. And it was like, wow, this can be good.
This is really nice. Yeah. Haven't done that before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you don't realize it till you become, aware,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no, that's wonderful. Wonderful. And I, by the way, I think it's so important, and I see this in you, is being balanced.
Yes.
Having crafts that, when
it's
I say
so
crafts,
important. Especially when you do what we do, it's so easy it's hard to turn off. So you have to, do something that can really shift your focus and attention. While I garden, I do listen to medical podcasts, but
yeah.
It's still relaxing.
So you nerd out like me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Endlessly.
Yeah, it's wonderful though. Yeah, it's great when you love what you do and you're passionate about what you do.
Because so enjoyable.
Yeah. It's one, and there's always, I'm a big fan and have a big philosophy of not being married to your answers, but your questions. And so when you listen
that's cool.
to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that, you can still be learning some things, picking up some things, but your brain's always like thinking and evolving and all that. I think it's so important. I think it's so important too with aging. Can you touch upon that, just because of your experience with, with geriatric medicine and with.
Yeah, I would love to, because I did, I worked in memory care for a while, which is really difficult.
Great.
And it really, when you work in that environment, when you go into primary care, you just want to prevent that for people as much as possible. And, there are certain things that we know are protective, and one of them is learning new things and staying socially engaged. So, going out and playing cards in the community or going to an exercise class, those are actually really protective things to maintain those neural connections. And it's such an important thing as a huge part of our population is aging, that we start to really think about this. I see it in practice every single week. Someone's concerned about their memory, and we're tackling it really early.
Yeah. And do you think you're seeing it earlier than you used to?
Yes.
You?
Yeah. Of course, there are some people with genetic, earlier onset, but we're definitely seeing even just what we call mild cognitive impairment, where someone doesn't have dementia or Alzheimer's, but they have impairment in their memory. And it's happening at really much younger ages and without clear explanation as to why. We have ideas about it. But
functionally, and it's coined this term, but is type 3 diabetes.
Yes, exactly.
And people with type 3 diabetes, well, of course, type 1 is autoimmune,
Yep.
where you need insulin. Type 2 is an evolution of pancreatic, either insufficiency or insulin resistance. And obviously diet and weight and American lifestyles play a role. But type 3 diabetes is coined because sugar is such an influence on the brain.
Yep.
And literally, because our society is, I believe the last data is about 36% of the U.S. population is type 2 diabetic, going towards 50% is predicted in the next decade. We're going to have astronomical rates of early cognitive impairment and dementia, because I see it in my patients also.
All the time.
Just little like subtle.
Yeah.
And it, they're functional,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not talking an 80-year-old.
Oh yeah, 60s.
Oh yeah,
seeing it a lot in
60s.
60s, and yeah, I think that's where like diet has a really big role in these monitors we've been wearing as a little experiment.
Yes, so the truth comes out. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm right now wearing a continuous glucose monitor. I'm not a diabetic, and I'm going to say that out loud because my wife is like, "Oh, you're diabetic now," and I'm like, "No, but it's knowledge."
Yes.
And this biohacking, if you will, knowledge really has been interesting. It's really, we just started the last couple of days in the practice, and I know a few of us are doing it in the practice, and to me already in 36 hours or whatever I've had it on, I'm like wide-eyed about how my smoothies every morning might be an arch enemy.
Me too. And it's just really enlightening because everyone's bodies, they really do process food differently. We know the basics, fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins, easy, but everyone's different in how we process carbs. So this is some really fascinating,
it really is.
New
It is.
knowledge.
It's amazing. So simple to do. You can do a 2-week trial of a continuous glucose monitor that you put on the back of your arm, like I got here on the back of mine. I'm sure people out there have seen these. You don't have to be a diabetic, to do this. It goes right to your phone, and you can see in real time your blood sugars. And one thing that I've really noticed in my patients, so not just me, I don't want to, my sample size is only 36 hours.
Yeah.
But like how something like rice will affect somebody's glucose immensely, which if we think about, okay, well, what does that matter? Well, forget diabetes. I mean, that's legit and what we're talking about with brain health and that, but that is going to have a huge insulin influence on their body, which is going to cause weight gain and cause stubborn metabolism. And I mean, what's probably number 2 or 3 in the whole practice that people come in for? Weight loss.
Oh, yeah.
They want to get their weight in control.
Yep.
So a continuous glucose monitor can be huge, but then the next person will have that same volume of rice and they're not getting that spike.
That's what, having this to sort of experiment with has been, it's unbelievable
really
how
is.
different.
It really is.
So helps individualize for people.
Absolutely. So one last thing, okay, before we kind of wrap this up, but I want to ask you this. It's kind of the hardest for the last.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit what I touched upon about gratitude with experiences. And it doesn't have to be in medicine. It can be in anything if you're, and if you're willing to share with us. But, what has been one of the hardest life experiences you think you have ever had?
Yeah.
And where you might be grateful for because of on the other end.
Yeah.
And, and or what you might have done differently.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question.
I know it's loaded. There's like 3 questions in there.
It's really good. And I'll kind of elaborate actually from where I started, like going into medicine, because it, truly the hardest thing was actually not that. It was that I got sick again about 5 years ago. And for listeners, a lot of patients know this about me, but I have Addison's disease, which is autoimmune destruction of the adrenal glands. You still make adrenaline, but you don't make cortisol, which is necessary for life. And of course, during COVID, right when the pandemic started, I basically entered into an adrenal crisis, and I was very, very, very sick. I couldn't brush my hair. I crawled up the stairs.
And if you knew out there, like how truly this is a tough little girl.
Oh yeah. Like
she doesn't stop when you're pregnant in the office and you're having some difficulty with your heart and arrhythmia and high heart. She's like, we're like, honey, we're going to sit you down. If I have to call, your husband in 911, you're going to slow down, but you push through. But you couldn't even brush your hair.
I couldn't even brush my hair. So I knew something was very seriously wrong. Addison's wasn't high on my list because it's so rare.
Yeah.
So it was when you're sick like that and, my body was really shutting down, it was so difficult mentally and physically. And I was, supposed to be getting married and was finishing school and there were so many different things. So that quote is everything about, and I maintained that perspective even while I was sick. I just believed that I would figure it out. I finally, we did. I was really grateful. And then once I did, it's not perfect. Like with a lot of these chronic diseases, there's not always like this perfect solution. And you can learn to live really well with them. So I chose to focus on how grateful I am there's treatment, how grateful I am for functional medicine and IVs and things that make me feel better, my family. And then every day that I feel well, I'm super happy. So I don't kind of waste my time chasing after things that don't hold value, if that makes sense. I value health.
And that probably my guess would be that probably why the 6-point, the deep 6 model resonates so well with you.
Oh my gosh.
Because what we see, and this is a little bit off on a tangent. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that with us. But, and by the way, you share that often, and I'm going to tell you how powerful that is for patients to hear. Well, because you're human.
Yes.
The practitioners are human.
Totally.
We have stuff.
Yep.
We have people. We always, everybody's got a little monkey on their back.
Exactly.
We all have a little monkey on our back of something, whether the outside, no matter how it looks and what it acts like or says. And for you to share things like your experience with patients, I know they're grateful for, and because there's not just empathy in that, but it's a journey, it's a relationship you put together. And I think that's so critical in helping others. And so thank you, by the way, for that. The other thing though, on that end that I was just going to speak of is, would you have anything in your life kind of done anything different or differently, related to that or to anything with that journey at all?
Actually, yes. So what I would have done differently, I didn't seek any care for about a year. I was only dramatically sick for like 2 months.
Okay.
Prior to that, I didn't feel well. Yeah. And I didn't do everything you're supposed to. I didn't go to the doctor. I was worried and I just sort of brushed it off. Oh, I'm just tired. I made excuses. So this is something that all of us do. We make excuses. Oh, I'm tired because of the kids. I'm tired because of school. I made a lot of excuses. And it's a funny lesson for me because it's such an easy thing to do. And I see our patients do it and family members. So that's something I would have done differently, is tried to address it earlier and gone into the doctor.
Yeah. No. But when you're mentally tough, which is a gift.
Yes.
It also can be
very stubborn.
Awareness is everything. And you can, learn that having awareness, it's, with this kind of situation, that, just always brain muscling through isn't
exactly
the best thing. At least get some objective
and I can always identify patients or people who, they're so mentally tough. They don't even know how they feel necessarily. They don't know that they're tired or sick or something's going on.
How about men?
And all men. Yes, exactly. This is very common.
It's amazing to me. And obviously because of what we do, and obviously I practice what I preach. I'm in tune with this. So personally even, but it amazes me, how, because of the mindset and, like that prefrontal cortex, frontal lobe, how you just some people are driven and all that, but they got all this other stuff going on and they come in finally to be well, or, they're their family's evolving. They have a little bit of space to like look at themselves.
Exactly.
Again, it's mostly a man.
Yeah.
Not always, but mostly. And so it's like, hey, I'm going to pay a little attention to myself. And they come in and I look at not them personally necessarily sometimes, but I look at their labs and I go, oh my God, like how have you been?
How did these don't match up? Yeah.
How have you been functioning?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I often even find that they don't even know what feeling good is like.
You can forget.
Yeah.
You can completely forget.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
You don't even know what it feels like to have energy anymore.
Yeah. It's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And profound when I see something like this because, and I'm sure you hear this too. We'll hear people say, you know, I didn't realize how bad I felt till I felt better.
Exactly.
You know, isn't that crazy?
It's like the veil is lifted, you know, the cloud is lifted and you feel completely different.
Yeah. And that happens simply with this, literally with this 6-point model, you know.
Exactly.
And they all are equally, I want to stress that they all are equally valuable, you know. So as much as a hormone could be, it could be the fact that you have mind-body stress,
right,
whether it's work or the house, or you could have a bad gut and not absorbing nutrients. They're all equally important and affect each other like
That's
a matrix.
That's why I love what we do, because we don't forget the whole person and get overly focused on one piece. It's that whole person holistically.
Yeah. Awesome. So, you know, just wrapping this up, you know, I do want to, first of all, thank you because your expertise, and you may think you don't have expertise because I know you're very humble. I know you. I know I get your phone calls about you want to go over a case. and by the way, I'm like, you got this. Like, I don't even have any input for you. You fixed it already. I don't know what you're worried about, but you're so humble and you have so much knowledge and expertise. And I think one of the things that I'm grateful for is you in the practice is you bring this balance, whether you see it or not, but I want you to know that you have wonderful balance.
That's great.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Just tell your husband I said that.
I'm going to tell him. I'm going to
make sure Matt knows you're very balanced, so you can't be blamed for anything. Okay,
Ever.
I'll write it on a script. Okay, you never, not even all the projects. By the way, you didn't get into the projects. You didn't tell us about your projects.
You know, just every month, something new pops into my head that we absolutely have to do in our house. And my husband, I need him to be on board to be my muscle. So he is endlessly doing projects with me, and it's fun. We love doing it together, but we've redone kitchens and bathrooms, basements, you name it. It's actually our kind of collective creative outlet, which is really fun.
That's great as a couple to do. That's awesome.
It's great. We've had some fights in the towel store. That's, you know, but no, it's so much fun and gets me out of my, you know, comfort zone a little bit and in my creative zone, that other part of my brain working a little.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Me and my wife, Victoria, we've actually done gardening, you know, together, you know, like she's got an organic garden and she's really into that. She's and
really skilled at that.
She's really skilled. Yeah. Even when we had a horrible season, a drought, you name it. I mean, like, how did we get this? Garden. How did we get these tomatoes? How did we get this kale, etc.? But yes, we've been in a few fights though, when our hands have been dirty in the backyard with the garden. It happens. Oh yeah. But it's all right. So as long as you always make up.
Exactly. Always.
So Lauren, anyway, thank you. God bless you. You're amazing, and your family, your husband, your daughter. You guys are awesome. You're such a blessing to us, and I really, really mean that. You're a pleasure to come to work with, and you're a pleasure with all the patients. We hear nothing but stellar things. Okay, and your expertise and your experience and your heart mostly shows all the time. So thank you again.
Thank you.
You're never allowed to leave. You can have a baby or two again, and you can whittle down your hours, but you're never allowed to leave.
I would never. You're stuck with me.
And I appreciate you really, really, really always, you know, embracing the Deep Six, the model, the 6-point model, and doing all the things you do.
Yeah. Thank you for having me and creating this amazing space.
Yeah. Thank you. So this is Dr. Lewerenz with the Deep Six. This podcast is really for you to bring knowledge and bring some of these nuggets to yourself, your loved ones, your friends, your home. Share them because it truly can make a generational impact on you and yours.